I gotta say, I've always loved the box for this one. It's a fun choice of design. If it looks a bit rough, that's because it's a blown-up picture from the comic, and I think the rough line work being enlarged there gives it some charm. The comic is about a bear with white fur. He's not a polar bear, he just has white fur. And he has adventures in the forest with his animal friends. It was a light-hearted comedy series. One significant aspect of the comic is that there was no sign of humanity. It was just the animals in the forest. The game has a subtitle, Mori o Sukue no Maki, or roughly, Clean Up the Forest. In the game, you're given a mission by God, who looks just like a human, to take care of the mysterious problems in the forest, which wind up being caused by an underground technological facility being run by an evil computer. That actually places it closer to an animated version of Kitte ni Shirokuma, which also departed from the comic quite a bit. In it, the animals find a devastated city, and then accidentally kill the last human being on Earth. And then they eat them. This is one of those combination adventure game RPGs that seem to be in vogue in 1989. In this case, you alternate between adventure game and then RPG sections. During the adventure portion, you wander around the forest, meeting up with your animal friends and giving them a hand. Encountering someone gives you one of those command interfaces where you pick a verb. Most of these will be familiar, like look and talk, but there's also eat, and one extra special command, poop. Just in case you weren't sure about bears in the woods, I guess. I have read that you do not have to use the poop command at all in order to complete the game, but why would you ever not choose to poop? Okay, if you poop in front of God, he gets mad and hurts you, so maybe try to refrain there. As you take care of business around the forest, you'll earn IQ, and that essentially acts as your experience points. There aren't explicit levels, but when you pass certain thresholds, you'll attack harder and have a higher maximum HP. One major problem with the exploration in this game is that it's impossible to control the bear. If you think about the world as being laid out in tiles, the bear occupies 2 tiles, and you can only interact with things that are on the head. But as you're moving around, you don't really move with the head, and so lining yourself up properly is just about impossible. The best approach if you're off by 1 is to intentionally run into something, and hopefully that will give you your 1 tile offset. As you gain companions, this actually gets worse, because they follow along behind you in a line, and when you reverse direction, it just flips the line around. So you're skipping over a whole lot of tiles when you do that. It's just about the worst walking around interface I've seen on the Famicom. A strange feature of the adventure game portions is that there's a progression of seasons. Some events are only available during certain seasons, and in those cases you just have to wait around until the leaves turn. When you go into a dungeon, you'll explore these mechanical regions, and of course you're looking out for treasure chests and other objects that you can interact with. It really feels like whatever developer actually made this happened to have half an RPG sitting around, and they just slapped the bear on top of it. Even the password system has a terrible interface, as with every character that you enter, it resets the position to the front of the line. And you can't backspace if you make an error. Hitting B deletes the whole thing and you have to start over. While you're exploring the dungeons, you'll get into random combat, and here your options are incredibly limited. All you can really do is hit people until they fall over or run away. Naturally, the encounter rate is super high in the dungeons. You'll barely be able to take more than 2 or 3 steps without getting attacked. In Japan, this one's barely remembered at all, and those few people who do remember that it exists mainly remember it for being a pretty bad game. Kitte ni Shirokuma comes across like they had a bad adventure game and a bad RPG, so they smashed them together and wound up with an even worse game.